Welcome to Rise, Healer, Rise, the podcast where your transformative journey as a healer takes flight. We're here to guide you on a sacred path of embracing your essence and transforming your sensitivity into strength. Are you a healer, an empath, a creative soul, or a leader who has a deep desire to share your gifts and create an abundant life that honors the beauty of our earth? In a world that's calling out for healing, your unique gifts are more needed than ever. But how do healers, creative souls, and leaders of our new earth maintain their spiritual connection while navigating the material realm? The answer lies within you, and I believe in your power to rise up and navigate the challenges that lie ahead. The key to unlocking your full potential lies in sharing your healing tools, and just by doing this, you invoke divine right protection. Inside this podcast, we explore nature-based methods to clear trauma, cultivate sacred essence, and share your gifts to create a significant impact and thrive as a modern-day healer. Join me, Sarah Estelle, your host, flower essence expert, high priestess and business guide, for content that soothes your soul and sparks inspiration. At full moon, we welcome a special guest to impart their wisdom. Together, we rise, heal and transform. So embrace your essence. Honor the abundance of Gaia. You are source. You are limitless. The world awaits your light. Rise, healer, rise. Today, I'm very excited to introduce Ann Callaghan and welcome her on to the Rise, Healer, Rise podcast. Ann is the visionary founder of Indigo Essences. Her journey into the world of vibrational essences began with a deep commitment to supporting sensitive individuals, especially children, in navigating the emotional and energetic challenges of our modern world. Indigo Essences have since become a beacon of support for those at the forefront of change, offering powerful tools to stay grounded and balanced. In this episode of Rise, Healer, Rise, Ann is going to share insights about her new Trailblazer series of essences designed to empower and support the trailblazers leading the transformation of our planet. Okay, so welcome, Ann. Welcome to the Rise, Healer, Rise podcast. Really happy to be speaking to you today about bringing balance to chaos using your range of essences and the Indigo Essences. So my goodness, don't we need balance right now? And there is so much chaos around us.
Yep, thanks, Sarah. Yeah, it's lovely to be here. And it feels like we're right in the middle of a very, very chaotic time. And we've known, those of us who are working in this, with alternative energy and healing and essences and so on, we've been preparing for this time for a long time, 20, 30 years for a lot of us. But I don't think any of us realized how intense this particular point would be. We knew that systems were broken and they had to break down. But I don't know that any of us realized that there would be so much aggression and tension and difficulty as this process was taking place. So I would say that this summer we're going to see a lot of unrest, a lot of difficulty, and we'll need more than ever to be able to balance and stabilize ourselves and the people around us. So I was thinking about it actually after you asked me, a few questions to prepare a few answers, which I have because I can't remember much, about the indigo essences. People sometimes ask, why did you call them indigo? And when I started out, it was because indigo was the color in the night sky just before the break of dawn, just coming out of the real pitch black of night, the color as the sun, just before it starts to rise, the sky goes indigo blue. So that's the birth of a new day. And I always saw the essences as being part of this birth of a new day. But equally, the color indigo is the color at dusk, just before, as the sun goes down, the sky goes indigo blue and then turns into darkness. So it's for this period between 2 days, the end of one day and the beginning of another.
It's also a
And
very
that,
calming color, isn't it? I know it
yes,
deeply.
yes.
If you look at color therapy, it's a color that really brings chaos down, brings any
And you're
up.
wearing it, Sarah. I think it looks in your top looks like,
Yes, it is indigo, and that's not deliberate, but obviously, maybe on some level it is.
yeah,
You
interesting.
too, are
Well,
you?
no, this is a kind of green.
Ah, okay, okay.
Hard to tell in this,
Mm.
in this light, but yeah, it's green. So the indigo range started 20 years ago or so. When I thought that this would all be very easy, we'd have all these wonderful enlightened children coming along, and we would just all the old systems would collapse and the new ones would emerge, and it would all be, easy. But it quite obviously isn't. It's a lot harder than we were expecting. And I do feel that this summer and possibly into the end of this year, we're going to see some of the very intense, um, very intense situations with the world on the precipice of war and so on.
Mm,
Um, so both externally and internally, there is a big need for us to balance and stabilize ourselves. Um, and the essences, as I say, were started about 20 years ago and very much started with, I think I'm best known for essences for children, because that's how I started out working with children and trying to support them in their journey. And then the essences fairly quickly turned into essences for me too, ones to support my journey. And that's how the range has evolved, you know,
mm,
in step with what I've been going through.
mm.
Um, no, I do laugh.
Let
The
out the cat out
survival
the bag
series.
there.
What?
Just let the cat out the bag there. This is the
Well,
story of
it's
your life.
true.
But I actually think, just as an aside, quickly, I think modern day essence ranges um, are very specialized. It's not
Yeah.
some more, we have the batch range to do with more general things, if
Mhm.
you like. But modern day essence ranges are very specialized, I think, and yours is a beautiful example of that.
Yeah. I do think essence makers come in with, we come in with it's our own story, really, very often that goes into our essences.
Yeah.
Um, and that's our reason for, chicken and egg, our reason for experiencing, but also our reason for making these essences to help ourselves.
Mhm. Absolutely.
And one of the biggest jobs that we have to do, in my opinion, is to let go of fear, is to let go of the fear programming that we took on as little children. Um, um, and that's a big step. We have so many fears, hidden fears, even we have obvious ones, and then we have ones we have no idea where they came from.
Mhm.
So we can be, tuning into the collective fears, ancestral fears, fears from, or perhaps our first incarnation in this place, who knows? But that is one of the things that I've noticed, um, that a lot of people in the healing world don't really talk about, um, the darker side of this process. When you start, it's all, swinging crystals and love and light and, guides and angels and all sorts of things, which is lovely. But that then gives way to the investigation of the shadow and the darker aspects. And we have to have, we this light cannot exist without the dark. And if you do not investigate, and face your fears and so on, um, you're going to have they're just going to keep coming back, actually. And my experience. If you don't look at things, they'll just keep presenting themselves.
And I think that's what we're seeing, isn't it? Or personally, we can see the picturing, which can be very fear-inducing, which is understandable.
Yeah.
Which is why essences come into their strength. But the deeply challenging thing, I think, from my own personal perspective and what I see with my clients and my friends and my family, is that we're being asked to really look at those end times within ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, it's no longer just, oh, well, I'm just going to do some healing work, or I'll just do, this process, or, go through this forgiveness protocol. It's not that anymore. It's like real, this is serious.
It is serious, and nobody knows how it's going to end.
Yeah.
We have our hopes, but we actually don't absolutely know what's going to happen. We do know it's the end of a cycle. One way or another, it's the end of a cycle, and very hopefully we will manage to move through this into a better world here. That we'll be able to, we won't blow ourselves up, in other words, because there is that potential at the moment.
So because we are in this place right now where we do not actually have control anymore, and I think that's the internal, external part that's triggering for us all, essences obviously can't change the future in the way that maybe we'd like them to, but they can hold us in this middle point. So shall we talk a little bit about the specific essences that you could share with us that can support us during these very uncertain times? Now, I know you have the Indigo Essences, it's quite an extensive range, but you also have some new essences, don't you?
Yes, I have a small set of just 4 essences called the Trailblazer series, Trailblazer Essences. And I was approached by our German distributor, who's also a kinesiologist, a lovely guy called Karsten. And his kinesiology teacher had approached him because she said that she was seeing in her students, who are all therapists pretty much, she's well known on the continent, she was seeing a need for specific supports for people in the vanguard of this movement. And she couldn't, well, she hadn't found them in existing ranges. And she asked Karsten, would he know of any? And he said, oh, we'll get Anne to make them. So what we did was we just worked in collaboration, talking about what the specific, and just 4 essences, but, for specific situations that she found her students were encountering. And it's a very, very scary place to be in the vanguard, because we are breaking through into unknown territory. And we have to, we have to do it. The old, there's a notion in Buddhism, a thing called a bodhisattva vow, which I do believe a lot of healers took. And that was that they would stand back until every one of their students walked through the door ahead of them. But actually, now we have to take the step forward. We have to go through and bring in this new energy and live in this new way so that others can follow. So it's a reversal of perhaps something that we may have done before in previous lives. We can't stand back anymore. We need to go forward through that door. So the essences that they were asking for, they wanted one to deal with energetic. I better read off the thing here, because I have too many. I say to sometimes I feel like a mother with too many children. Which essence was that now? My mother used to say all of our names because she could never remember who she was talking to. So the first essence they wanted was one for physical stability. The issue being exhaustion from the physical pain of clearing and helping not only ourselves but others in our family, friends, prior incarnations and ancestral lines. So people who've been working as healers for a long time through this process, we are used to giving out energy all the time. We are used to holding space for people. And it's quite hard for, you know, ideally we need to be balanced, and most people working in healing do have, you know, have some kind of nurturing system going on, but we need more than that these days, because we are taking this step forward. So we need to step back a bit from all the energy we've been giving out and really bring this energy in to us. So the solution was a combination essence that will help us refocus on our own well-being across all timelines and dimensions. Given that time isn't really linear, you know, what we experienced in the past is also impacting us now. And the affirmation was, it is safe and easy for me to love myself and refocus on my own healing. And what I found often with sensitive people is that they've closed the back of the heart, because that's where toxic energy comes in. You know, that kind of paternalistic pat on the back, that they're there. You know, that kind of, that a lot of, when you're a very sensitive child, you get that kind of, ooh, and close off that very sensitive area. Now that needs to be open to allow energy to come in as well as out. So there needs to be that flow in and out, in and out, in and out. So that's one of them. The second one was called a sense of self-stability. Now, the issue here, they said, was in energetic entanglements with family, friends, relationships, and situations which are no longer compatible with us. Now, again, most healers are very empathic and caring. And as we clear off our programming, our fears, and our old ways of doing things, we will find that there are people that we've grown up with, and we have in our lives for various reasons, that really are not compatible anymore energetically. And there is, a lot of us made contracts with people when we came in here. Very often they're family members or people that we're in relationship with. And we said, this is my version of it anyway, you know, that we sat in the green room before we came down here, and we said, okay, you and I, we'll do this and this and this together, okay? And then you come down, and one party isn't necessarily able to complete that contract.
Yeah.
And so you're still tied together energetically with that contract, but one of you, so you can't really move ahead. And I don't mean you necessarily have to have a physical parting, but this entanglement, this energetic entanglement, needs to be cleared. And that we've seen quite a lot of that, and it's been very obvious in the healing modalities, I suppose you could say. And I apologize to all or any men who may be listening to this, but it's most frequently what we find. I would have a token male in any workshop, and the rest of the participants would be female. And it's like, for the females, it has been easier to move through this energy for a lot of the time than the males. So quite often you see that in relationships, that, you know, the female is really moving into this energy and living in it, whereas the male is finding it very confronting, very difficult, and doesn't want to have anything to do with it. So these are situations where the entanglement energetically needs to be dissolved, not necessarily the partnership, but this entanglement. So
yeah, it's bringing awareness to it most of all, isn't it?
Exactly.
Get really clear about, okay, this is what we agreed to, or this is how the agreement is out picturing. We can bring more compassion and love in.
Yes. Yeah. So the solution was a combination essence to foster peaceful and constructive separations without grief or confusion. And that's where you're talking there about having clarity about what's going on in the situation, rather than getting into, you know, sometimes I see relationships break down that really didn't need to break down,
Mm.
but because of lack of clarity and lack of communication, people get into blame, and you know, we can really, we need to move past that. And the affirmation, it is safe and easy for me to let go of the old story across all timelines and dimensions and move into the new. So again, this is letting go of the old story can be very confronting for people, because the old story um, was very much about conforming to societal norms and doing, you know, getting up and going to work at 9 and doing this and doing things in a very particular way. And actually, I know I really appreciate what you're doing with your business coaching, Sarah, because you're teaching people, and women in particular, I think, to be in the world in a yin way rather than conforming to the old, more yang uh, models, if you like. Um, so yeah, that can be very confronting. It's like, um, I remember when I started doing this when I was still working full time as a homeopath, and so I stopped. I thought, I wonder if I can allow my diary to sort itself out instead of booking people in routinely and looking down. I used to look, oh God, 3 months down the line, and my diary was booked solid. And that had a terrible effect on my energy, because I thought, well, what if I don't feel like it on that particular day in 3 months' time?
Yeah.
So I decided that it would be possible to stop doing that, to let people, to let energy come in on the right days and go out on other days. And I found that the diary arranged itself so that on days when I was feeling really well, you know, lots of people were booked in, and on days when I wasn't, it was quiet.
Mm.
Um, and that learning to go with that flow, trusting that flow and that connection with others is a very important part of this move, you know, into beingness and away from doing. So as we move
Absolutely,
into,
allowing that flow through. Yeah,
yes, yeah,
absolutely. I remember many years ago, I used to work for a Chinese doctor who I loved dearly. He was such a teacher for me
mm,
in the UK. And on some days, the phone would ring non-stop with bookings, and on other days, we'd have the phone ringing non-stop with cancellations. And he
mm,
was always really zen about it. He'd go, okay,
mhm.
just the yin, it's just the yin. And I
Yeah,
was like, wow. And that's actually what you're saying, isn't it? It's
mm,
just the opposite energy which needs to
yeah,
come into balance here.
yeah,
It is ultimately always taking care of us.
yes. And
And
it's
you
a
ran a really
nurture.
successful practice, really successful. Mm.
Yeah, yeah. And if and one of the things that I feel about this new energy is that we cannot operate. It will not support us to operate in an imbalanced yang way.
Yeah,
Well, people will burn out.
yeah.
Um, we need a lot of time with this energy that's coming in, a lot of time to sit and integrate, a lot more than we did.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things I would say to people when they're feeling overwhelmed: take a break, just stop. You know, even yesterday, it was yesterday afternoon, I think, there was a high X class flare, solar flare 8.7 or something like that. And I felt it. I started to get a palpitation, and I went, okay. And I had loads to do yesterday. I was really busy. Um, and, and the old me would have gone, just, oh, just get on with it and just keep going, keep going. And the new me was going, okay. And I took a break. And, you know, within minutes, my whole system had settled down. And I think I took an essence as well. But just allowing yourself to integrate whenever the energy ramps up and you feel really overwhelmed for whatever reason, just stop. That's one
Yeah,
of
it doesn't necessarily have to be, or it might be take the day off. It
yeah,
doesn't have to be. It's acknowledging,
yeah, yeah.
pause. Yeah, absolutely. Mm.
Very, very important. And it's, I think people are sort of afraid to do that, you know, that, oh my God, I've got such a schedule. Because time is malleable. This is the other thing. It's like, you know, when we, as we move more into beingness, we'll notice that time, our experience of time changes. And we will get done what we need to get done. And it's very different to an external kind of clock. There's an ability to step off the hamster wheel of time into this kind of being in the flow.
Mm. And what I'm finding massively, both personally and just being with clients and in what I do, is that it's not necessarily stopping the doing. It's just making sure that the doing is coming from the being, which
Yes.
is what you just voiced there.
Yeah.
I took myself back into the yin, into the being part of myself.
Mm.
I checked in, and then I was okay and I could start again. But what I then did was coming from the yin.
Mhm. Yes, exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's really key
You're
that you have both of these energies operating. It's not just one or the other. It's like bringing them together.
balance. Yeah.
And that's what I see is what we're relearning right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's an extraordinary time. Um, w- what happens, it's interesting though, because this is quite an affront to some people. You know, they're for people who are still very much in the old system, it can be quite challenging for them to let go, to trust. This is one of the things big thing we have to learn to do, is to trust in this process, trust that it's going to be okay, um, and just let go of that uber control that we used to have. So essence number 3 is called sense of self stability. Now, the word stability is one that they really wanted to use, the German, Karsten and Catherine. Um, and I suppose it's that notion of holding this space, because we are being buffeted by energies all the time. And so this is about holding this stable place of self. Um, And the issue was increased vulnerability to external energies. And this was coming about from, all the refinement that healers have been doing, letting go of all the old programs and all the fears and all the guarding and the armoring, and allowing ourselves to open up and trust. We also become vulnerable to external energies when we do that. That's the reason why sensitive people guard themselves in the first place, because you feel all this prickly energy around. But we are moving in this vanguard to a place where these beautiful expanded energies will be normal. However, um, we do need to. The solution, we reckoned, was a combination essence that will help us be present in our physical bodies while working simultaneously in higher dimensions. So we do what has happened to most of us who are very sensitive. We don't feel safe when we're working in our expanded self, um, around people that we don't know. Do you know what I mean? It's like we're usually very careful about where we go in our expanded state. And actually, we need to learn to be safe, to feel safe in our expanded self, no matter where we are. So that was one of the issues that they were seeing, was we were either really expanded, or we were in our kind of day-to-day energy armor self. So
Yeah, it feels like a kind of almost next level description. It's not really the right word, but of what the protection essences that we have,
yes.
or protocols if we don't use essences. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, I'll take this to help me. And of course, that's good. And we could still use all these things.
Yes.
But it's more about allowing ourselves to be there,
Mhm.
because the word protection is long gone, isn't it? It's
Yes.
like It's like really letting go of that old paradigm and allowing ourselves to be fully present, and in that full presence to be
Yeah.
safe.
Yes. Safety is a huge issue. This feeling of safety, safety and trusting the process. Very, very important, because we've got, we've got to move into this expanded state and be physical at the same time. And this is one of the things that hasn't been done before in our knowing. There are on a global scale at any rate, there are sadhus and various mystical people who've been able to do that, but on a global scale, people haven't generally done it. So
Yeah, sounds like a really cool way that you're talking about and introducing through this new range of this ability to go and be present, because so many healers, people like us, are very expansive in our energy, and we are present in, let's just say for the dolphins in Australia, can be there, but we need to do it safely.
Yes.
Rather than just by default, my heart goes out to you. It's the phrase, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Holding space for
Yeah.
something that needs to be done,
Mm.
not at sacrifice to ourselves. And I think that's that's where we have been, and that's what you said at the beginning, isn't it? Healers have just like gone, okay, let's do this thing, and don't worry about me, I'll be fine. Yeah, so very powerful.
Yeah. And being able to do this and remain in the physical body. I had an experience of sitting on a druid's chair at one point, and it was the most extraordinary feeling I've ever had. It was like my bum was like turned into a plug, that the energy went zoom, was anchored down, and at the very same time there was an expansion up as far as you could imagine, but it was completely grounded. Um, I've never felt anything like that since, or before or since. So it was an extraordinary experience. Um, but it gave me the feeling of, oh, this is what it feels like to be completely in your physical grounded self and as expanded as you can be at the same time. Um, yeah, because we are used to either being up there or down here, So this is to be both.
Be fully present, yeah.
Yeah,
Be fully
yeah,
present in our sovereignty, yeah.
yeah.
Person.
And then the last of the four, which is a really important one as well, is trust and allow stability. Well, it's about trusting and allowing the process, really. And the issue, fear of change, which triggers our survival mechanism and keeps us stuck. So we're not good at change as humans, we cling to what we know, even if it hasn't been comfortable. But we knew it and we got through it, and so that's better than the unknown. So one of the things that's holding us up on this process is, we make a little bit of progress and then we go and go back to what we know, what we knew, what was familiar to us, not necessarily comfortable, but familiar. And I have talked quite a bit about the process that caterpillar goes through to become a butterfly. And the caterpillar has to go in the cocoon, completely dissolve. It has to completely dissolve in order to come out the other side as a butterfly. And on a physical level, this is a real challenge to our physical bodies, because our bodies are programmed to maintain homeostasis. So when something changes, the body's natural survival response is to regain the previous form. In this situation, we have to let go of that previous form if necessary. We have to be prepared to change, to allow the body to change. And so that's what this essence is about. And the solution, a combination essence to help us trust in the life process and allow this change to take place. And you can imagine, the caterpillar doesn't go in there going, oh, no, no, don't think so. At least I don't know what a caterpillar thinks, but they do come out incredibly transformed, don't they? And the affirmation, it is safe and easy for me to allow myself to transform. And the essence safe, of course, is a big one in this particular. And the other essence that's very good in this combination is one called release, which is not actually really on public. I haven't hardly even got it on the website, I think. And it was made with a pair of hawthorn trees. And in Celtic mythology, a pair of hawthorn trees are usually represent, you'll find them at the entrance to most sacred places, that it was kind of a portal to another dimension. And of course, the hawthorn is about healing the heart and grief. And so that essence was really about letting go of anything that was holding us back. In terms of griefs and hurts. So there's other essences in most of these combinations, have quite a few essences in them, as my combinations tend to. But I do see them as scaffolding, like we're supporting a process.
Well, your range, which I think is for people that aren't very familiar with your range or essences in general, I think it's important for us to share that your range is mainly created from crystals or gems.
Yep.
Rocks, as you call them.
Rocks.
And that is a different, yes, you do have flower essences in there. Do you want to just talk a little bit about the difference between flower essences and gem essences?
Well, I started, when I started making essences, I was coming from the place of being a classical homeopath and working with children. And I just loved rocks. In homeopathy, the mineral remedies in homeopathy were ones that always appealed to me. I'm more than likely a mineral myself. There's a piece of this is a tiny shard of stone called, God, can you see it?
Yeah.
That is barytes. Right. So that makes a homeopathic remedy as well. And this was one of the ones. This is the safe essence was made with. It's the mother crystal. I dropped it or something, it fell apart. But yeah, so I was very attracted to rocks, and I never even considered making a plant essence for a long time. And when I brought the remedies into the practice room, I noticed that children always went over to them. And some of them, I mean, this one is almost edible. That is Chrysocolla gem silica was made with that. And children would want to put that in their mouths. They're absolutely mad about them. And to me, it's like the thing about a rock is it has a very solid, stable formation that does not change over time. Some of these are goodness knows how old, and they have kept the same solid structure the whole time. And there's something about that incarnating children needed. And what I felt was that these children that I was seeing were completely connected to the spirit world. They really didn't need any help in that direction. The help that they needed was in terms of grounding, structuring their energy body, and support for the stability of their energy body. And that's what I see or feel about the gems. And to me, the plant, and I have made a few plant essences, but I had felt that they were more about this kind of, they have a very different life cycle. They bloom and they blossom and they seed and they die down again. And it was very much a very sort of opening up to spirit kind of feeling about them.
It's about change, isn't it? The flowers and the trees.
Yes, yeah.
Teach us to change. It's been, in fact, that's their main, what wisdom to me and continues to be, is that it's okay to change.
Yes.
But within, and this is the kind of strange thing, within that change, we need to stay present, stay anchored as we change. And that's really what you're talking about.
That's what the rocks are about, yeah.
So it's not stopping the change, it's just feeling safe, I guess.
And there is something to do with electrical activity and rocks. They do. I feel very often I would say to people, well, hold an essence in either hand, um, and you'll feel the electrical charge going through your body and coming into a rhythm. Um, and it feels to me that the rocks particularly support this incoming solar energy. They support the integration of this energy. Um,
Yes.
because
Yes.
one of the sort of side effects of our exposure to this solar energy is an electrical impact on the body. For instance, people have increased heart issues. The heart is um, very impacted by the solar stuff. So yeah, very, very useful. Very, very
Mhm.
useful.
So if people would like to access these essences or any of your essences, they can go to your website and we will flag it up with this. But it's Indigo Essences. What?
Yeah, indigoessences.com.
Doctors.com. Okay, so we will flag up the link with the show notes of this interview, whether you're watching it via audio as a podcast or whether you're watching it as on YouTube, for example. We will put those in the show notes. Thank you, Anne, for coming and just holding that space with us today and helping us all, first of all, just get real. This is happening. It's happening. We are here.
We're in it.
We are here. Yeah. So, and of the beautiful support that the earth has always held for us and will always do in in these vibrational beings. Is there one message of hope that you could share with us as we say goodbye today, particularly if anyone listening is going through something really challenging?
The first thing I would say is that it is possible to change how you feel. And that's one of the things I really learned from essences, that no matter how bad you feel, when you take essences to balance and stabilize yourself, you can change the way you feel. You can change the way you're reacting to a situation. Um, and the other thing I would say is that the more of us who stay balanced and stabilized through this very tumultuous period, the more likely we are to come out the other side in a good place.
Yeah, because we're allowing that new piece
Yeah.
we're literally allowing the caterpillar to butterfly process. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being part of the Rise, Healer, Rise podcast, Anne.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I want to remind you that your journey is a sacred one. You are not alone on this path of transformation. I, Sarah Estelle, and all of the Nature Kingdom are here with you, holding space for your growth and celebrating each step you take towards embracing your true essence. If you love today's content, leave us a review on your favorite podcast listening platform and share your biggest takeaway. And do visit the show notes of this episode where you'll find extra resources to support you. Also, come and join our Rise, Healer, Rise community on Facebook and be part of a rising wave of healers who are empowered change makers. And make sure you subscribe to this podcast and never miss an episode. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Until then, may you always remember, you are the healer the world has been waiting for. Rise, healer, rise.